Hello, I'm here to do a trip report video that happened a long time ago, almost a year ago now, so the end of December of last year. And I don't really know why I feel inclined to share this right now because I'm at work. But yeah, I'm just gonna do it. I'm kind of sad that I never ended up writing down this experience because shortly after that, less than a week, I ended up going to Slab City and having more psychedelic experiences. So it just kind of got pushed to the side, even though it was the most intense. It was the most intense experience of my life, most terrifying and fearful, and it was hell. Oh wait, I forgot to tell you. Yeah, I'm gonna do a trip report on Hawaiian Baby Woodrose seeds, so HBWR. And for those of you guys don't know, like, what it is, you can look it up on erowid.com. That's where it's a good place to do research on psychedelics, but it contains LSA, which is found in LSD. But I just found out that it's an alkaline element, and that had so much to do with my trip, and I didn't even realize. You'll understand when I tell you later, but yeah. I just came to that realization. Anyways, I'm just gonna go right into it. My best friend and I, the one that I talk about all the time, we decided to do this alone in my house, which was the first time I had taken psychedelics in a building, because I always do it in nature. My parents were gone or something. Yeah, but we decided to just do it there, and the first day we tried, we did 4 seeds each. They were old, though, because we had bought in them a few months back, and so, we only did 4 each, and we did the method where you soak the seeds, you grind them, you put them in, you do it with lemon juice. I forgot exactly how it was. But yeah, so we did that, and the first day we did it, because we did it 2 times. One day, then the other day. Sorry, I'm stuttering and stuff. Okay. But the first day we did it was not what we expected. I had a little bit of a visual experience, and I was dancing, and I felt high, and I was like, oh, this is nice. But it wasn't strong enough, and later on we came to the conclusion we didn't take enough, and they were old. But the very first time, it felt like we were just drunk, and my friend got sick because she always gets sick with alcohol, and I also got a little bit sick, but we ended up just eating a shit ton because we had the munchies, and we were literally on the floor, just feeling drunk. And I've never really been full on drunk where I'm incapable of doing anything, and that's how it was. But anyways, so I don't really want to talk about the first experience that much, but the second experience, like I said, was hell. I died so many times, and I've never experienced that before, that intense of an ego trip, or ego death. And the closest thing I can relate that experience to was an ayahuasca trip. The whole thing was purging. And, okay, so the following day, we took double the amount, 8 seeds, and we soaked them longer. We got a fresh batch. We didn't eat all day to make sure it would work, and then we took them, and I started feeling it after about 30 minutes to an hour. It was, again, it felt like a little bit like an acid come up, it would just, I don't know, just slowly started to come. But my friend started feeling sick again, and she was not doing good. And at this point, I was enjoying myself, singing and dancing and moving and feeling all psychedelic and seeing visuals. for a brief moment, but then that all went away. But I noticed she was doing terribly. So I was like, it's time to take care of my sister. And she was in a really dark place, so I grabbed my singing bowls and I started to do things that I've never done and say things. Like, I was channeling something, and I had this soothing, kind of high-pitched voice, and I was telling her things that would only really work for her, even if I didn't think it was necessarily true. This truth was pouring out for her, and I was clearing the space, clearing the energy, and really trying to help her, and she was trying to hide all of this darkness, and I was just pulling it out of her, and I said, you have to release it, you have to surrender, that whole thing. So she had her little ego death at the beginning, and she started to purge. She had to throw up, and she was dry heaving, and I was helping her, and she thought it would never end. And at one point she looked at me, and she looked so afraid, and I just looked her in the eyes, and I said, this too shall pass. And then we were talking, and I said, it'll flip. It's all going to change, and I'm going to need you. You will see. Because she felt so guilty for needing me, and I was like, it's going to happen to me too. This is the part of the process. We're the same person. We're healing each other right now. Hold on, I want to make sure. Okay. I always feel like, okay, sorry. But yeah, and as soon as I said that, within 5 minutes, I fell down a black hole. And I can't even recall exactly what it was, because it was a blur. A lot of that night was a blur. It was frightening, and I probably never want to experience anything like that again. Yet I know I'm going to experience something similar, because I keep diving into my freaking shadow and taking medicine and stuff. But I fell into an old memory and an old thought loop. And on every psychedelic, that's how I fall down, is the thought loop. And for about, I'd say, an hour, I was stuck in a thought loop, and it was the same thing, like, oh, I took a medicine, it's okay. Oh, I took a medicine, like, over, a broken record. And I hit insanity. And I knew I would never, that all of existence was this cyclical repeating. And I felt terrible because, I couldn't even consciously think, because I was stuck so hard in this thing. But a part of me felt terrible afterwards, because I was leaving, like, my best friend to just witness me dying. Everything was falling apart, and I could see from her eyes that she didn't know what to do at certain points, because I no longer knew how to breathe. I couldn't think anymore. My brain was starting to fry. But so we were in the bathroom at this point. Oh, but before that, when she was purging, like throwing up on the toilet, I had this weird thing where nothing physically came out, but I was sitting on the toilet and felt like I was diarrheaing, and this like black goo was coming out, but nothing came out of me, and I just felt it all coming out. And this has to do with the alkaline thing that I didn't realize, but the entire trip I felt acid coming out of my skin. My pores were burning, my eyes were burning, everything on me was burning. I felt like I had acid all over me, and I was sweating and crying, and it was a big detox for sure. Big purge. So yeah, anyways, I was stuck in the thought loop of, this is reality, this is all there is. And it brought me back to when I had actually what started it was a seizure that I had in high school when I smoked pot one time, which I used to all the time, but it was just bad situation that I can talk about in another video. But yeah, that's what triggered it, and whenever I do psychedelics, that's always the memory of that is always the trigger, and then it falls into thought loops. And she sat there holding me, and I couldn't breathe anymore, and I kept telling her, breathe for me, please breathe for me, because I couldn't do it anymore. And I honestly have no idea how I got out of the thought loop, but if she wasn't there, I would have killed myself, 100%. I couldn't have handled it, and I just remember saying really, really dark things, and there was just this black goo all over me and this heaviness. But another part of it was when we were on the bathroom floor, I was just crying, like spread out on the bathroom floor. But, okay, sorry, where was I? Oh yeah, there was a part where I felt that I was floating on water, and then I began to drown in the water, and I couldn't breathe from there, too. And I was in that for a while, and then the next week I realized it was preluding to my DMT trip, where I was floating on the water, burning. But I didn't realize it in that moment, obviously. Everything from that trip was pretty much preluding to my future situation in Slab City. So that was interesting. But anyways, I was on the floor, and there was a point where I had this really, really uncomfortable feeling in my lower chakras, and it was absolutely terrible. But I remember just opening my legs wide open and just like crying and like letting something out of me, and like I was so uncomfortable, and I kept like moving and like doing I look so weird, doing weird things, but like I kept just trying to open my legs wider and wider to like let this thing out of me. And yeah, I just sat there forever, just dying and wanting to physically kill myself, even though I knew I was dying psychologically, and I physically thought that my brain was crashing and it couldn't handle anything anymore. It went into overload mode. But eventually, my best friend, she somehow distracted me. I don't know how, and it would be very important for the next time it happens. But she got me out of the room, out of the bathroom, and I remember walking out of the bathroom door like it was a portal, going, whoa, what just happened back there? And how did you and I like get out of that? And from there on, we went into another portal into my room, and it was an entirely different experience, and almost worse than that. We get in the bed, and we set it up before we did the seeds, where there was like blankets coming down, because it's like a bed where it has a frame top and like that, but we made like a fort, and throughout the entire night it felt like a baby crib, and my room looked like a dark reddish pink because of the curtains and the paint on the walls and everything like that. But so yeah, I felt like I was giving birth and being in a womb and dying, and so we tried to like slowly go to sleep and let our bodies rest, but I didn't sleep at all. I couldn't, because I knew that if I fell asleep, like one of my other experiences where this is really awkward, I don't even know if I want to say it. Okay, I'm just gonna say it because yeah, I can't hold anything back anymore. But I had an experience where I overdosed before, and I knew that if I fell asleep, just like an overdose, you wouldn't come back. So that happened, and throughout the entire night, I couldn't communicate, and I began seeing entities, and they were very, very, very dark, and they were walking all over the room, and at one point they were all standing beside me, and they had really bad intentions, and this is the first time in my life I've actually experienced dark entities before. I've seen ghosts and paranormal things in that room too, but they wanted to feed off of me. And one of them ended up beside me on the bed thing. One of them ended up getting inside of my mouth, and I started choking and I couldn't breathe again, and it crawled in and attached to my heart and was eating my heart and going up and down my body, and I felt like it was like a chainsaw ripping my insides. And I have never experienced that level of fear in all of this incarnation, and I had wished in that moment to trade it for so many other negative things, like the pain that I thought I knew before, the victimization of experiences I've had. None of it was comparable, not even the slightest amount. But anyways, so this thing was going up and down my body, just absorbing me, eating me, and it kept latching onto my heart, and it was papulating. And at this point, I started blacking out. I'm sorry, this is all coming back to me now. This is crazy. I haven't talked about this in a long time. But anyways, my heart was papulating. I blacked out, and I started seeing black holes everywhere, and everything was becoming a hole, and my brain was just becoming void, and I fell into one of the holes, and till this day I cannot recall where I went, and I blacked out for a long time. My best friend was in and out of sleep, but she couldn't sleep because she kept knowing that these things were taking me, and so I couldn't communicate when something really bad was happening, so twitch a finger, and she had to sit me up and start breathing for me, and she was praying, and my best friend has a difficult time with the I don't even know what to say, the idea of God, but she was praying to God, and I remember overhearing in and out the things she was saying, and so much compassion and love and power was emanating from her. But at one point it got really, really, really terrible, and she ended up performing an exorcism because this thing wouldn't get out of me. And eventually, when she was praying and doing all the singing, calling upon all the forces, and she sat me up or something, and this thing, I was pulling it out of me. I knew when I woke up it wasn't fully out of me, but I cleared a lot of it out and got some pieces of it out. But anyway, back to the whole void thing. Yeah, so I was lost in that for a while. I blacked out, and I have no idea how I came back. Absolutely no idea. I didn't have the power or strength or any of it. Something else pulled me out of it. But as I was being pulled out of it, I started to realize it only gets worse. I started to realize my brain started to function in the slightest way, but only in an egoic way, where it's saying, red alarm, you're in danger, you're in danger. My brain was telling me I was having a stroke. And at first I thought it was a seizure, because the last time, it's where you're, my heart, this is how I knew. My heart was beating so fast, so much so that it felt like I was going to have a heart attack, but then it transformed into my brain frying out and everything was always constantly blacking out, and the waves in my ear were just loud sounds, and the motor engine in my brain literally stopped working again, couldn't breathe, didn't know how to do anything, literally anything. Couldn't sit up, couldn't move a finger, couldn't talk. I was dying. But yeah, so throughout the entire night, I was seizing up and like shaking the entire night. The whole bed was shaking, and I couldn't even cry at this point because I didn't even know what crying was. And if I did cry, it would burn my skin, literally, so I couldn't do that anymore. And I just remember these entities crawling up inside of me, and it was just yucky and dark. And the only time where I could find the strength to let go of these things and surrender and just get them out in a wholesome way was the crack of dawn. Wait, no. I'm so dumb. What is it? No. Oh my gosh. Dawn is not the sunset. What the hell? I'm sorry. I'm spacing out. Okay, so when the sun started to slightly come up, that's when, I don't know, I allowed myself to break free from these things. It was really weird, and the sun was my savior. But I remember even after that, I was still feeling the stroke stuff, so I was trying to drink water because I realized my brain didn't have water. My body was freaking out. Everything was dehydrated and being fried. And with all the prayers and exorcism and calling on all forces of deities, the light was healing me. And my brain started to finally absorb the water and slow down. And I cried and cried and cried. And I was holding my sister, and I told her if she wasn't there, I would have killed myself. I would have been dead. And even if I didn't kill myself, these things would have given me a heart attack, or this stroke would have actually seized my entire body. But I've never felt so much love for a being in my entire life, and she has helped me so many times. But the relationship that we had after that, like, we just laid in the crib where it felt like everything around was so bloody and messy, and we just laid there with so much gratitude for being alive. And we really, after this trip, understood so many more levels of existence, of just being alive and safe, and what love is and light. And it was the darkest place we had ever been. But the following day you could feel the nastiness in the bathroom in my room. We saged everything. We were blessing it, trying to purify everything. And we had to wash the blankets. Like, it was bad. But we ended up watching on Netflix the next morning these like documentaries that I love. They're not silent, they don't have words, but they have beautiful music. It's called like Forests, or my favorite one's Forest, moving art. But we watched it and we bawled and cried and just talked about everything we were so grateful for, and family and love and childhood. And I've never felt so much gratitude and peace in my entire life after that, before that. But there's probably so much I'm missing, but overall I died in so many ways that night. And I thought I knew what an ego death was. But this is why I think this reminds me of ayahuasca, even though I've never taken it. But it sounds similar to many ayahuasca experiences where we just purged and purged and purged. And I know that a lot of people who take Hawaiian Baby Woodrose seeds don't have this experience because a lot of the time the trip is specifically unique to you. And depending on how much of that chemical you release in your body naturally, it'll affect you differently. Or depending on how open you are to like spirituality or purging and getting rid of things, it depends. If you're at a party, you might not experience this if your intention is not to release or surrender. But yeah, so the following week it only got even more intense, and that trip has pretty much it changed my life in a way that I can't describe, and it preluded to the future in such a drastic way. And that time of my life last year, 2016 December, and the very beginning January, 2015-16, that was the introduction of the year of death. Because if you add up the numbers, 2016, it equals 9. 9 is conclusions, death, closings. And every psychedelic I did was a death trip, if you've noticed. But yeah, so that was the beginning of the year, and I'm hoping that with 2017, it's gonna be a different approach, because I did a lot of dying, and I'm ready to be reborn in a new way. But yeah, okay, I'm going off topic now. So that was my Hawaiian Baby Woodrose seed story, and I recommend if you do take those, please look it up, do your research, be prepared, and don't do it to have visuals or trip. It's not what you think. It's a medicine. It's dangerous if you're not prepared for those kind of events. And please, 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 if you do this, do it with someone that you trust and that will have your back when you're dying and isn't going to freak out when it looks like you're being overtaken by entities and demons, because that might happen. And it's very, very important that that person doesn't freak out and that they call upon a higher source. So, yeah. There you go, and I hope you enjoyed, and I know it sounds like an insane story, but it was so real, and it's still real to me. And there is darkness out there, for sure, because we create it. And if we create the light and the love, there will be an opposite to oppose. And yeah, it's important that we learn to work with both sides. Okay, thank you for listening to me for so freaking long. Peace.